Well, when the Japanese market came to the US with a turbocharged four-door all-wheel drive, it was the WRX, which is in 2001, 2002. You know, the STI didn't come out until 2004. So when the Evo came out right after the WRX, it was an instantly better car. So the Evo became the go-to for the four-door turbocharged all-wheel drive. Then the STI came out, and it became a battle from then on. My name is Ronnie Soliman. I own RS Motors. Started in 2003. Pretty much right around the Fast Furious era. RS Motors, we do pretty much everything from complete teardown, machining, assembling, blueprint engine, to installs, to all the turbo upgrades, fuel system upgrades, down to the last line, which is dyno tuning. Primarily, we are known for the Evos, obviously, since we race a lot of Evos. For racing-wise, this chassis is what we focused on. It's probably since 2013. I wasn't much of a driver then, but back then I was into drag racing more, which this car and another chassis, just like this one, set record for stock, long block, stock turbo running 10.7s. 10.8s. Since then, I transformed the car to a track car. It became a lot more fun, and the car kept performing, and we kept seeing more potential out of the car. It really hasn't seen an end. It just keeps getting better. A chassis is Andy Smedegaard's race car. He purchased it pretty much with the sole purpose of tracking it. I knew he could drive, and I told him I can get you more power if you need it. And it's always a push between you drive better, I'll put more power. So A chassis became pretty much what we could push ourselves as far as we can go to what it is now, which is 700 horse. You know, it's an easy 9-second car with sequential transmission in it. The US, they started the Evo market in 2003. It's called Evo 8 up to 2005. In 2006, they came out with an Evo 9, which is almost identical except for this has a MIVEC engine, which is a variable intake cam. At first, it didn't look like an attractive option or upgrade, but then as you start tuning it and be able to have boost come in earlier and torque come in earlier and a wider power band, it's clearly a better engine. Evo 9 only came out in 2006, so for me, that made it more desirable. I like what you can't find. 2007, they didn't have one. 2008, the Evo 10 came out. Completely different chassis, completely different engine, different transmission, a heavier car. So it kind of threw people off a little bit, but it's a better handling car and more comfortable car. So maybe they're trying to cater to a different market until I think 2015 is the last model, and then that's it for now until they decide to come up with another one. So their Evo 8s, 9s, they have different models, trims, GSR with sunroof, or RS or MR models. So the RS and the MR models come with aluminum roof, and both models come with the whole aluminum front end. The lightest model being the RS, which they don't have power windows, they don't even have dome lights in the middle. They don't have power door locks, power mirrors, no rear wipers. There's no sound deadening anywhere in the car. A lot of that stuff is eliminated on the RS. When they came out, they were kind of like track-inspired model. It's for people who's gonna modify them anyways and get all the weight out, so why add it in the factory? On the Evo 10s, you don't have the manual 6-speed anymore. Instead, you have the SST 6-speed option or the 5-speed. For somebody looking for an Evo for the first time, maybe never owned one, or just kind of getting started, as close to stock as possible would probably be ideal. We see a lot of cars come in and out the shop that's kind of been modified, and sometimes it's scary, the stuff you see, how it's been done or how it's been put back together after it's been modified. So I just say beware of the aftermarket stuff if it's not done properly. I'm not saying all of them are bad. You know, it's always a good idea to have a dyno place. Would be a place where you transfer ownership. You know, like hire a dyno place for 80 bucks for 2 runs or something, and car runs good. The seller is confident that he can sell the car, and the buyer is happy that the car is healthy. There's no better place, and this 80 bucks probably worth more than anything you can spend. That it tells you exactly what the engine health is, and it can handle full power and not have to worry about it. Yeah, on these chassis you have transfer case or rear end will start to whine if somebody dumped the clutch on a launch or something, or didn't take care of the gear oil, and they do get old and they get hot. So if you don't take care of them, they will start to wear the gears and start a whine. If a whine follows every gear shift, it's most likely your transfer case, which is the most common one. You know, some people will track these and crash them and repair them from there, or buy a parted out car, buy parts and put it all back together. It doesn't mean it's a good car or a bad car, but depending on who's putting it back together. Probably pays to have somebody who knows the cars to go look at it and say, yeah, this is not right, or buy it. So right before you even think of modifying the car, maybe maintenance would be the first step. Fluids, you want to keep up with them. We try to change transfer case, diff once a year. If you plan to track the car, as bad as it is, we change fluids almost every track day. If you're trying to modify an Evo, say you just bought one, a stock one, the first thing we ask is, what is your goal? What are you using the car for? Is this an autocross car, a drag car, a track car, or just a fun street car? Because those have different ways of modifying each one. You know, if it's an autocross car, we'd keep you on a stock turbo. If it's a drag car, we'd want to ask what kind of horsepower or what kind of quarter-mile time are you trying to get. As far as basics, when you get the car, they come around 230, 240 to the wheels, stock. You know, some less, you know, some higher. A basic tune will get you about 300 horse. If you don't have exhaust, it's a turbocharged car, you need at least a 3-inch to let that engine breathe. From a 2.5 to 3-inch difference would be like 15, 20 horse under 300. But I think it will be more of a difference if you had stock exhaust up in the 350, 400 range. So you'd want that engine to breathe, so you want at least a 3-inch exhaust. Brand preference, there isn't any, but weight is another factor. So if you're modifying a car, weight is horsepower. Less weight is more horsepower. So it's about a 60, 70 horse jump. And then from there, if you convert the car to E85, you can get up to 380, 390 real horsepower, and still have the stock turbo. That's on the 9 chassis. On the Evo 8, you'll need cams to get to that power level. The 4B11 on the Evo 10s, they are good engines, and you can tune them to probably about 350 horse, 370 torque on E85. The way they are stock, believe it or not, maybe just a test pipe. Injectors, pump, and boost controller will get you up there. We just scaled aluminum Evo 10 blocks, 54 pounds, and then the cast iron Evo 8-9 block is 104? 106. Wow, half the weight. The 4G63 having the cast iron block is always known to have a lot more capability than aluminum. Being cast iron, they are heavy, but they're also stout. They can handle a lot of boost, a lot of power. So the block itself are known to handle 40 PSI and hold it. And you can't say that with the later version of the Evos with the 4B11 being aluminum block. The sleeves on that block is not that thick, you know, and it will require for you to re-sleeve the block with ductile iron sleeves for you to get more power out of them. The heads on the 4B11 are higher flowing heads than 4G63 in stock form. Having this car as my test chassis, I pushed stock turbos at 37 PSI, and it'll hold it as long as the tune is right, and that's how I ran the 10-second quarter mile. Bolted a different turbo on it because I wanted to see what the engine can hold. Pushed it up to 520 horse and ran a 10.4, still on a stock long block. So that tells you a lot about what the engine itself is capable of. So the 4B11 in stock form, I pushed them to 430, 450 horse. We're seeing a lot of cars come in with bent rods or damaged piston rings, ringlands. As far as the sleeve itself, I've pushed a few blocks now that are stock sleeve to 600 horse. Not too many miles on them, but it's holding, and it hasn't shown any kind of weakness. But we plan to sleeve that motor just in case, so we don't blow it up and scatter it, just because we want to push to the max. So the Evo 8s and 9s, tuning-wise, they're actually pretty simple. The MAF on the cars can handle up to right around 500 horse. Above that, you want to go speed density or something that can support horsepower. 4Gs are always known to be able to handle boost as long as you have the right fuel and octane level that can handle it. Most of the time, it's actually the turbo that's a limiting factor, and a lot of people don't know that maybe. But nowadays, it's very easy to get a turbo that'll bolt on and make a lot more horsepower. So the engine becomes the weaker point. So 8 and 9, main difference is the MODIFICATION table. You can advance the table and get a faster spool. And if you have a dyno, that's kind of easy to do. Your graph pretty much kind of wakes up on the left side. Torque comes up, horsepower follows it, and the whole graph is kind of switched to the left and makes it a lot stronger car than the Evo 8. As a tuner, if you're tuning something that you just, it's one table that you move and the whole graph moves up, that's huge. You can't beat spool and torque with just one table. It doesn't happen in the tuning world without the MODIFICATION. So tuning 4B11, it's a different stroke, different bore size than the Evo 8s and 9s, and then a smaller turbo, a smaller, faster spool and turbo. So they spool, I think full peak boost is like 3,100, 3,200 versus like a 35, 36 on Evo 8s and 9s. Variable cams on intake and exhaust. We typically don't touch the exhaust side unless you want to move the whole power band around. Try to be careful with trying to get peak torque out of them because they're known to have weaker rods. I don't know why. They look like they're identical rods stock rods than 8s and 9s, but they are known to bend or break. Tuning these, we mainly use ECU Flash, which is an open source market, which is also available on the Subaru side. Access Port was available for this car for a very short time. But when the open source market came out, a lot of guys jumped on and developed software for this. So we stuck with ECU Flash. Well, these cars are pretty strong the way they are drivetrain wise. We use a lot of stock components. As long as you maintain them, I think they'll last a long time, even track abuse. The transmission would probably be one that's going to require attention, and that's more of a driver side. It takes a little bit more finesse to get a transmission to last when you're making a lot more horsepower. So you got to make sure the shifts go in. You're in the clutch, and if you're just going to try and bang the next gear and you don't time the clutch perfectly, it's not going to go into gear. Or if you're shifting at 8,500 or 9,000 RPM, it's not going to go in gear on a synchrotrans. You might get lucky and go in once in a while. It's not going to go in every time. Or if you're granny shifting, it'll work. So on the Evo 8, 9, the transmissions are identical. except for some gear ratios in first and fourth mainly. The 5-speeds are pretty stout transmissions. There's also a 6-speed option on the MR models of the Evo 8-9. And those, some people would say they're weaker than 5-speed, and some people would say they like them. On the Evo 10s, you don't have the manual 6-speed anymore. Instead, you have the SST 6-speed or the 5-speed. The difference between the Evo 8-9 5-speed and the 10 5-speed is a lot beefier gears inside the Evo 10. Double synchros on pretty much every one instead of having a single synchro on some of the gears on the 8s and 9s. They are shorter gear ratio for the 10s versus the 9, and some people will complain they're on higher RPM cruising in the highway instead of lower in the 9s. The SST is a very nice option for these cars, for the Evo 10s. It's a dual clutch transmission, paddle shifting. I mean, it's the best of transmissions out there. They do have weaknesses. The magnets do fall off on the shift forks, which some people panic and think it's junk from there, but it's actually a pretty easy fix. We just scaled a 5-speed transmission out of an Evo 8-9, which is 120 pounds, and then the SST transmission out of an Evo 10 or Rally Art, which is 222 pounds. So that's a difference of 100 pounds. This is a stock Evo 9 gear set, a good one, obviously, and happen to think that's one of the weakest points of the Evo 5-speed, and that's what they do. If you make enough torque, you mash on the throttle, coming out of corner exits, and you get in full torque, they'll shred those gears. So what we have is the upgrade here to solve that problem. It still uses synchronizer, but you now have a straight cut gear set to run in your 4th gear. Direct replacement. This one happens to be a dual synchro conversion. So you use the 4th gear dual synchro as a 3rd gear synchro and fix that problem. I think the Evo 8s and 9s, specifically the 9s, are going higher in prices than any other model. I think the 10s are actually going down still. Insurance on these cars are kind of up there. I think maybe it's cost of replacement because they're not so many of them, and they're a rare model. You know, turbocharged, all-wheel drive, 4-door. They're just not many. I think they're for everybody. If you like the raw feel, go for the 8s and 9s. They do have an amazing steering response. The Evo 10s, if you're into more of a comfortable ride, I think it's a better handling car on track than the 8s and 9s, but they are heavier. But you can get the same times with them in similar horsepower. So they are capable cars even if they are heavier. As far as daily driving, I think they'll both do it. But the raw feel is always going to be on this chassis. Yeah, these cars will do good anywhere from a grocery getter to a track monster.